Hello, everyone, and welcome to Raw Recovery, a Trudging Together podcast. My name is Dion, and I'm your host. I don't think you probably really expect anybody else. We have another podcast coming up. I have a good friend today who is celebrating 3 years of sobriety. Clara Joyce, welcome to the show and congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm Clara
Absolutely.
Joyce.
Yeah, you know, this happens when it's supposed to happen. We try to get this done for about a month. But things happen in God's world the way that they're supposed to happen in God's world. So, with that, we will see you all in about 47 seconds.
The woods can be dense for our acts. The sea can be deep for our diving. Hope comes and stops us in our tracks. Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
And we are back to Raw Recovery. Raw, 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 raw. I'm in a great mood today. Got Clara Joyce on the show. I'm not going to spend much time with Dion stuff. I think we're just going to go ahead and, a little bit of it, a little bit explaining. Clara, we met in what? We met in the Noon Vitality, right? Is that where we met? Or was it Happy
Actually, we
Trudge?
met in a podcast that you were doing with someone else back
Okay.
in last year,
Okay.
early last year.
Wow. Been
Yeah.
that long already? Wow.
Well, we met and I tried to connect and I was like, and I didn't. And then we met
Yeah.
again in Fatality.
Oh, okay, awesome. Yeah, and anybody out there, I'm certainly not out of reach. I'm not Joe Rogan or any of these other guys. I mean, you can actually reach me. I do have a new email address. It's Dion at trudgingtogether.org. There's a new website coming, should be by the end of the month. But I digress. This is not my show. We all know that. It's nice to just be a servant, to be one of many and just be somebody who helps. So, what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to turn the show over to Clara Joyce, and she is going to tell us our story. Welcome, Clara Joyce. The microphone's yours now.
Thank you so much, Dion. I feel
Absolutely.
very privileged
Yeah.
and humble to be here in front of all these beautiful people that
Yeah.
I see every day. um, and my story began in recovery when I was 12. I went
Okay.
to PDAP, and my father was a volunteer firefighter for Longmont Fire
Wow.
Department.
Okay.
And that's how I was brought there. I was caught smoking pot at the youth center.
At the youth center.
At the youth center. So my father really kind of took a hold of that and put me in a meeting at the church that was called
Okay.
PDAP. Um,
Okay.
and I did that program for about a year and a half, and then my father
Do,
passed.
do you remember what PADAP meant? 'Cause I've never
Um,
heard of it.
I don't. I could Google it and
Yeah,
find
I'm
out
not
the
worried about
information.
it,
I think I
but it
have somewhere.
sounds like it was like a church ministry kind of a thing. Is that kind of what it was?
Yeah, I think that they originated out of Texas,
Okay.
and they used a monkey's knot for your 30 days, and then a knot for every 30 days thereafter in the
Okay.
necklace, in like a leather necklace.
Okay.
Um, and that was like my start of my first 12-step program. Like,
Okay. Yeah.
um, they did use the same 12 steps.
Okay.
Funny that that happens, right? So
Well,
fast forward to the year 2000.
okay.
Um, my father's passing was huge on me. And
Okay.
so I was institutionalized. So I don't know why I want to skip all of that.
It's okay.
But I mean, I guess it's important to know that I had alcoholism in my brain long
Sure.
before I even knew about what alcoholism even was.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. How old
yeah,
were you when your dad passed?
14.
Okay. That kind of tell us, your state of mind and what was going on. And it sounds
And
like it's
Boulder
really hard on
Psychiatric,
you.
yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
But Boulder Psychiatric Institute became a place of my residence
Okay.
at that early time in my life. Suicide attempts,
Sure.
cutter. I was a cutter.
Okay.
So, and then I went to uh, Fort Logan State for a
Okay.
time,
I'm
and
familiar with Fort
then
Logan.
fast forward, had a child. I mean, my family's life was very, on the outside of it was, everybody's seeing wonderful things, and on the inside, it wasn't so nice,
Yeah.
or at least for me.
Yeah, did you have brothers and sisters?
I had 5 brothers,
There we
yes,
go. There we
and I'm
go.
the baby.
Okay. So you're the lost
Yeah,
child in the family.
and
I
my
bet you
brothers
were
are
really
5 years.
quiet.
Yeah, 5 years astray for me. So I was
Okay.
never old enough to do anything with anyone.
So in a sense, you were an only. So you, just like most of us, you grew up in a much different household than your brothers did. It sounds like.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I can put it to where I knew what tits and ass were before I even had them,
Sure.
and the unhealthiness is that I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know my father was an alcoholic and my mom was a speed freak. I
Yeah.
didn't. Those are things in the modern white picket fence family that were not
Right.
talked
Yeah.
about, or anything.
Well,
So
your dad carried a certain reputation as a firefighter, and thank God for his service, alcoholic or not. Um, and the stigma that comes with it, and it can be very embarrassing. I grew up the same way, where the alcoholic was protected.
yeah, I
So,
never knew my father to drink.
okay.
So and he died early in his age. He was only 54,
Oh,
which is a year younger than me.
yeah,
So
I'm 54. So,
grateful that I don't drink today, but he didn't drink either, you
yeah,
know. And I don't really know a lot of his story. I just know these things by my aunt, which was his younger sister.
okay. Yeah.
So,
Aunties are always good for family information. Uh,
well, when you're desperate and nobody else wants to be around you, because the
oh,
phases in my life led
yeah,
up to that,
yeah,
all
exactly.
the phases I went through in my life, barely drinking, having children, getting married, uh, all of those phases, a little bit of drinking here, got in trouble there, uh, you know, fast forward a little bit to when I very first came to Alcoholics Anonymous, was under a child abuse charge. I popped
Okay,
my middle son in the nose
okay,
on accident. I didn't want to hit him in the nose. I wanted to slap him in the teeth because of his language or what have you.
sure.
Um, and I got a misdemeanor child abuse charge. And,
Okay,
the judge said, let's go to AA and monitor you for a little while. And then it was over.
yeah,
You know, um, they came into our home and did all kinds of stuff. I mean, my husband and I endured a lot. My husband endured a lot
yeah.
because of my behaviors, really is
Thank,
where it
thank
lied.
God for our spouses, man. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my spouse
Neither would
or
I.
my children. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, if I wouldn't have had those things in place, I
yeah,
probably would have drank myself or partied myself to absolute death for sure.
yeah.
Um,
I absolutely agree. There's something about when an alcoholic is accountable, like truly accountable, it makes us change. It's something about it. I think it has to do with being a part of something finally.
Yeah, the accountability of
Yeah.
taking, responsibility for it within yourself, I think is really huge, because a lot
Yeah.
of people can say, "Oh, I did this and I did that." But to
Sure.
take actual accountability and want to right that wrong,
Mm-hmm.
um, and be verbal about it,
Mm-hmm.
that's huge. To
It
me,
is.
it's humility.
Absolutely
Um,
it is.
Definitely for my husband, he's walked a road with this alcoholic.
Yeah.
And so that was the first time I went into the rooms. And of course, I
Okay.
went in, I got the signatures. And once I figured out that uh, I could do those on my own, I don't think I
Yep.
went back. The
Yep.
Triangle Club in Longmont is where I started to go to group.
Okay.
Um, and they also had a meeting on Lashley and Third.
Okay.
Um, and, that's where I came into the rooms. And that was
Mm-hmm.
in 2000,
Yeah.
99, 2000. And then, time goes by and the partying slows down because you're like, whoa. And I still partied though, because I was a bartender.
Okay.
My husband worked the day shift. I worked the night shift. We had small children.
Okay.
Um, and life passed. We purchased our home in Erie,
Uh-huh.
and that was in 2004. And in 2008, I went to jail in a blackout for domestic violence
Okay.
misdemeanor for
Okay.
pushing my husband. And that's the second time I came in
Yeah.
uh, to the rooms and 12-step programs. And the court provided all of the things that I needed. Uh,
Yeah.
and I did the classes and everything. And I did do a few AA meetings. I did ITR,
Okay.
which is an online thing. Uh, and I got a little bit of knowledge about the big book. Didn't really get a sponsor, worked the steps. I mean, I think I
Yeah.
had a couple people I called my sponsor, but I would lie.
Sure.
Because they had something I wanted, but I didn't want to say, I didn't want to go like try to learn it, I guess.
Yeah. We weren't
Too,
willing to do the work yet. We wanted
yeah,
it, but we wanted it on our terms, in our way. Yeah. I
yeah,
went through that stage too.
yeah. And then, about 2 years, 3 months into that, the judge thought I was doing so great that they dropped everything. It did take a year of antabuse to get me off of the alcohol,
Okay.
um, monitored severely, because
So
I'd already
and
had
abuse.
one
Yeah.
kind of violent charge from like 13 years prior, but they don't care.
No.
They go back, especially if it has to do with family and domestic.
Oh yeah.
Um, and I don't have any recollection. At that point, my drinking was to the point of blackout.
Okay.
I call myself a retired blackout artist,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
because that's what I do. I'm a more. I'm a person of more. I always
Right.
have to have more. Um, but after I got done with that, my mother was diagnosed. I think it was like 3 or 4 months after the court had let me go. And my mom was out in Merino on the farm, and very easy. The relapse was very easy, and I actually didn't even think twice about it. I didn't even call it a relapse. I was just like, I did my time. I paid my
Yeah.
dues.
Yeah.
It was a lot of money. I'm not going to act this way again. Um, all the things that I hear today that I say, wow, I've totally said all of those things to me,
Yeah.
to
Yes, we have.
myself.
Hmm.
Stopped by brush, picked up a gallon, went to the farm, you know, ended up driving 32 miles back to brush so I could get some more, you
Yeah.
know.
The first thing I thought was a gallon's not enough. It was as soon as you said it, my brain, that's not enough.
Well, and I had to stay
Alcoholic
somewhat,
mind. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that was the saving grace of it, right? My higher power was there. I didn't know it, but he was there. That was the saving grace, is I had to stay not drunk enough. I couldn't be in a blackout situation because my mom
Yeah.
was really sick. And eventually my mom ended up coming home with me,
Okay.
and she couldn't be by herself anymore.
Okay.
Um, and I continued to hide it from my husband and my
Okay.
family.
Okay.
Um, that's when the bottles that I hear in the rooms today were hidden.
Yeah.
You know, closets, laundry rooms. I had a section in my purse that I had cut out and made a little pocket just so I could have a couple shots.
Yeah.
And that's how I got through it. Um, it's how I dealt with the loss of my mom.
Okay. Yeah.
In the end, she ended up passing away in a home that she and my father bought in Longmont, and
Okay.
passed away in her own home, just like my dad did. And
Okay.
went to the next, and I continued to drink for 10 years.
Yeah. But that's what's natural for us when we alcohol, and this is where, a lot of shame and stuff comes in that, why couldn't I say, because we didn't have the tools to stay sober at that time. And we coped the best that we could. And we can't beat up on ourselves about that. The best we can do is, like you said earlier, is have a little bit of humility, admit it, and do something about it, which you did.
I mean,
Which you
yeah, I
did.
didn't know. I mean, I know now,
Yeah, sure.
because here I am. We're 11 years. I think I came into the program without court or a violent act or anything. But I had a series of 3 falls.
Okay.
Um, One fall was when my husband was away. My
Ooh.
husband does, anyway, but he was away in
Okay.
Kansas City, Missouri at a football event. And I didn't go that time. And I fell into my fan that I had next to my bed, and I destroyed my eye here.
Oh man.
I don't know how long I laid there. I know I
Yeah.
woke up and I was still on the fan. So I woke up
Oh,
from the blackout that way.
yeah.
Um, too intoxicated. I did another shot. I used some Bacardi to sterilize it, and I super glued it shut.
Oh,
And so now I have a letter Y on my face.
yeah.
Um, Funny
Hard to
that
see
that's
on
the
camera,
letter.
so I never noticed it, and I've been looking at you on camera for well over a year now. So
Most people really can't until, well, I notice it because I can feel it,
that's right.
I
Yeah, you will
guess.
notice it,
Yeah.
and that's all that really matters, really.
And it's not a good story. I have a lot of good stories when I drank, but this
Sure.
is not a good story, right? I woke up out of a blackout. It was awful. Then the second time after my husband had come home, my eye also, I broke all the blood vessels uh,
Oh,
in my eye, so my eye was completely red. I had no
yeah.
eyeball, I guess. Well, I mean, I had an eyeball, but I didn't have like
Couldn't
you
use
couldn't
it.
see the color of my eye or anything.
Okay.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Uh, that was the first one, and then he came home, and of course the games still continue. In the football, partying, and
Uh-huh.
we were partying the night before, and of course I think I was moderately drunk at that point in my
Sure.
drinking career, and I'd done a couple shots. My husband had bought a new car, and we went out to celebrate at Red Lobster, and
Okay.
I face planted. Um, I broke my plate for my teeth and really messed up my frontal part of my face, my nose, my chin.
Okay.
I didn't have this was all swollen at that time, and so it
Sure.
really mucked up my neck.
Yeah.
I refused ambulance services, and
Oh,
even my poor husband, I was just like, let's go in and eat anyway. You know, it was just a, crazy. It's just crazy how I
yeah.
didn't see And then my third fall was at home.
Okay.
I fell in front of the bed, and my husband, the Kansas City Chiefs lost to the Buccaneers, I think, or I
Okay.
think anyway, they lost their Super Bowl, and I don't remember that night either.
Okay.
I remember like picture frames, but that was what happened. And the next morning, I went to the hospital, and
Good.
yeah, that was an experience within itself. I was
Okay.
very ill and did not know it,
Yeah.
of course. Um, and they were scared. Um,
Who is they? Who was scared?
the hospital,
The staff was scared for you?
they
Okay.
told my husband that I was severely sick. I had sepsis. I had fluid around my heart.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it was a big deal. That's what amazes me when I think back to
Yeah.
to that morning waking up.
Yeah. And how indifferent we are about it.
It was
No.
like, oh,
Oh,
just take me to the liquor
isn't this
store
what
and get me a
everybody
couple
does?
shots.
Yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause
and
I thought
I
it was
think
normal.
it
Yeah.
was like my everyday life. Like everybody does this, right? Everybody
Yeah.
drinks like this. This happens to everybody. Um, so I came home. I knew I had to come back
Yeah.
to
The seed had
Alcoholics
been
Anonymous.
planted. Yeah. You knew. You
I
knew.
knew, and the doctor at the hospital strongly suggested. He said if I do not do something,
Yeah.
that my husband was going to wake up to a dead wife. I mean,
Yeah.
that was the realization I had to have. Um, and he was the age of my son, and he
No.
kind of looked like and mimicked my son, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I have 3 boys, and they're all grown up, so I don't know. I think it was a real eye opener, but I knew I had to come back. So I tried ITR
Okay.
again, and of course I was at home, absolutely miserable. My first 30 days
Okay.
this time around. Um, my sobriety date this time is January 17th of 2022.
Woo. 3 years
And
ago today.
yeah, 3 years today for
Yeah.
sure. And I mean, this woman in ITR told me, she was another AAer, and she said, you need to get to a face-to-face meeting, Clara, or you're going to drink. And
Hmm.
of course, I was like, bullshit. I'm not going to drink. I got this. You know, I wanted sorry. I wanted pity. I wanted validation.
Yeah.
For some reason. Anyway, I went to the Friday night meeting here in Erie, Colorado, which is my home group, Erie 1, at
Cool.
Friday
Yay.
night at 7:30.
Okay.
And I'd been in that parking lot a lot on Friday nights, but I just drove through it and possibly went to the liquor store. Probably did.
Yeah.
And so this time I went in, and my sponsor was the only woman in that meeting. There were
Okay.
4 other guys. And of course, my husband was this whole reason, I didn't want to die in front of him. And so it was all his flipping problem that I had to stop drinking. And
Yeah.
kind of like it was in 2008,
Weird.
Yeah, imagine that. Um, and she just wrote in my big book, call me. She put her number. She put to thine own self be true.
Yeah.
And I called her,
Woo.
and I started doing the steps.
Yeah.
She had me meet at the local library. I've lived in this town for
A
19
while.
years.
Yeah. Well, you said you bought it in 2004.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
hadn't even been in the library. I mean, I took
Yeah.
my kids there, get out of
That
the
was
car
21
so I
years
could
ago,
go.
honey.
Yeah. And this woman's lived a mile and a half away from me all those years.
Hmm.
I think that's what's amazing, that I met her. very, very, she's more of a very close friend to me today.
Sure.
Definitely still a sponsor when I am in the need of somebody saying you're pitying yourself, Um, sometimes I didn't think she was very nice.
Yeah.
But when I started step one, it was a series of journaling. She
Okay.
gave me a gift, which was a highlighter bag, a bag of used highlighters. And she opened the big book on the first meeting at her home. She
Yeah.
invited me to her home. I mean, I didn't know what she was going to have me do.
Yeah.
I really didn't. I mean, I thought I'm going to this strange woman's house. She could have, a barn with all these knives in it, as far as I know,
Yeah.
right? I live out, well, it's not as country as it used to be, but it's kind
Yeah.
of country out here.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a
Um,
little rural out there.
and she just started reading this book with me.
Hmm.
And we started at the very, very beginning. And when she opened the book, she rubbed her hand on how blank that page was. And
Yeah.
she said to me, "This is what we know about alcoholism.
Yep.
And we're going to try to learn a little bit about your alcoholism as we go." And
Mhm.
I started step one.
Yeah. That was
I
much
was,
nicer than the way my sponsor, he said the same thing, but it was a lot meaner than that. But that's where we all start is on that first blank page. Hey, and that's where we get honest. This is how we know, this is how much we know how to stay sober. Nothing. We don't know anything yet. And we all start there.
yeah. It amazes me when I look back at it, even though it is 3 years
Yeah.
um,
After 30 days, it
today. But
goes
yeah,
by.
yeah. I mean, I guess maybe she was meaner. I remember her face was, serious.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I remember a time or two saying to myself, uh, why are you so serious? Like, you know,
You're like pulling the Joker on her. What? So serious.
if I read this book and this and that, and as I went along, I went to step three rather quickly. She kind of
Yeah.
pushed me the first 3 months. 90 and 90 is what she wanted me to do. And
Yeah.
so I started going back to the Triangle Club. Of course, my husband was absolutely out to get me and wanted to go, wanted to know everything I was doing. So I couldn't journal at home because he was going to read it.
Okay.
Because I was the most important person in the whole world. Like he didn't have other things to worry about, like the mortgage and everything else.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it's just, uh,
That's what we think of ourselves, though. We really
yeah,
do. We think
I
we
was
are
so
the
full.
center of
Yeah.
everything. I
I mean, I
still
still
say it. I
have some
love
good
being the center
ego.
of attention. I still say it.
But, I mean, it helped me through, and I did my entire fourth step.
Mhm.
I bent my knee at the Erie Public Library, took my
Yeah.
third step, and I really did. I really did feel like I was put in a position of neutrality, like
Yeah.
a dome had been put over me. I remember sharing that in my home group.
Wow.
Um, and I remember feeling emotional. It was
Yeah.
probably the first spiritual experience I had experienced, except for the one, having some shadow men visit me in the hospital and all of
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah.
To see a glimpse of the other side and what it could have been like, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Um, but that was huge for me, my third step. And then going into my fourth, I was still very much so thinking everybody was out to get me. Uh, so I spent a lot of time at the Triangle Club, a
Yeah.
lot of time. My first year, I finished my fourth step. It was like 5.5 months into my recovery, my first one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do a fourth step like every year ish,
All right.
unless I'm feeling like I need to, um, because I'm harboring something. Um, anyway, well then I had never like went on a trip and at this point I have my own bank account again. I managed
Yay.
to, pull and get actually, I had to pay a couple things before.
Yeah.
And my sponsor, I really, really believe that she like really just guided me like, okay, this is what you have to do. You're going to have to
Yeah.
do this to be able to handle getting back to who you are, and I didn't get it. I didn't know I wasn't who I am
Yeah.
at all. I was like this Mrs. Hyde walking around demanding what, the world owed her.
Yeah.
Uh, and, I'm so grateful to her. Um, so, I got that little bank account and I started saving a little bit of money. And, fourth step, we go through jails, institutions, and death. And so at the fourth
Hmm.
step, we have to go through creditors,
Yeah.
how we're going to take responsibility for what we should have been a while ago in our home. Um, I unfortunately applied for my disability and was approved rather quickly
Okay.
because of some brain injuries and some
Yeah.
residual things that are a couple things that are outside issues, but two of them that are caused by alcoholism,
Sure.
which is the excessiveness of the drink.
Okay.
Uh, and so I don't know. I mean, I got through that fourth step. Fifth and sixth was very hard.
Yeah.
But then after I was done with them and went home and meditated after seven, I mean,
Yeah.
we did 5, 6, and 7 like bam,
Yeah. Yeah.
all in the same day. It was like a
Hmm.
3-hour session of her free time, and I don't know. Um, she it was just incredible how I can look at it today in that photographic part of my mind and just
Sure.
be like, it's like a movie.
Yeah.
And then she's like, well, let's go on a road trip now that you have a credit card, now that you're doing better. Um, Now we're going to get you out in the world and we're going to take you to another AA meeting. So we went, my first time out in the world without my husband, without my safeguard, because he was my
I
safeguard.
I get that. My wife was too.
And I didn't do anything. I mean, I actually, I mean, if I didn't have him there, I didn't have a guaranteed drink, first of all,
Yeah.
um, because he was an enabler wholly, because he loves me,
Yeah.
you know. So, and that neurotica really affects them. And that's when I learned a lot about
Yeah.
neurotica, of the disease of alcoholism and what it does to our family.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
We
yeah.
went we went to Dagwood. We went to Rapid City.
Okay.
Um, she had me handle all of the budgeting, uh, all of the, how much money it was going to cost us here, gas, all that stuff. She taught me about the angel number 3 and how we
Hmm.
could look for the number 3 in all of our adventures that we went to. And it was just
Right.
amazing. It was such a God shot. I had so many little tiny spiritual experiences
Yeah.
throughout that 4-day road trip, right? 4 days. And it doesn't seem like a long time, but for me in that movie, it was like a 4-hour session in a movie,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we've read The Family Afterward more intently.
Oh yeah.
I learned a lot about my sponsor that day and
Uh-huh.
her journey. Um, and she did it sober. She's been through so much
Yeah.
sober.
Yeah.
And that example and trudging, um, it helped me. I don't
Yeah.
know if it rocketed me into my next 3 months or what, but man, I came back on some people call it the pink cloud, but I was just happy, joyous, and free.
Yeah.
And my sponsor's always on those 3 words, happy, joyous, and free. Um, and I finished my steps in her home.
Hmm.
Um, and 10, 11, and 12 is something in my life every single day. Um, oh, back up a little bit. My seventh step was huge because I
Yeah.
offered myself good and bad.
Yeah.
And I
All of
didn't
it.
really, I didn't know I had to offer the bad too.
Yeah.
But she explained to me that if I didn't offer the bad, that I would never heal from it.
That's right.
And I didn't understand that. So I guess that's why I say she explained it to me. Because the
Yeah.
biggest phrase in my whole recovery, even today, is help me understand.
Yeah.
And I don't even know where I came up with that.
And
I have no clue.
we have a whole life of putting the cart before the horse. I mean, so I mean, we're naive when we get here.
Yeah.
You know, like growing up, my parents would be like, Dion, you need to stop lying. I'm like, okay, how do I do that? Well, you be honest. Okay, well, how do I be honest? Well, you don't lie. I see. Another alcoholic who had been through it had to sit down and explain it on my level. Otherwise, I couldn't get it, and that made it even more frustrating that I didn't understand, and it just made me feel stupid. When I feel stupid, I get mad. So,
Yeah, I have an anger explosive part as well. I call it
mhm.
banging my spoon on my tray because it's really about the behavior.
Yeah,
It's really about the behavior behind what feeling I'm having.
yeah,
Um, and it stems from waiting for somebody to want to do something as a child, waiting. I was
yeah,
always waiting. So I'm still sitting here waiting, when is sobriety going to just like slap me in the face?
yeah,
You know, um, and I had a big fit. I think it was my 10th month, 11th month. I tell this to my sponsees. I sat in my office, this little tiny itty bitty space I made for myself with the suggestion of my sponsor to have a place to go in my
yeah.
home
That's
that
yours.
is my sanctuary.
Yeah,
Um, and it helped me feel like I had something
yeah,
that wasn't material. All that's in here is nothing but books and letters and things I've done to
yeah,
keep my dexterity so I can drive. And it's all about, like, this office here is all about me,
yep,
really. Um, but when I go outside of it, it's not about me.
yeah.
You know, Sometimes I have to sit in here a lot, but I had a fit, and I'm so grateful today that my book bag. That's another thing she taught me was if you're going to a face-to-face meeting, always have your big book.
Yeah,
Always have your big book with you as a passenger in your car or a grapevine. Um, Meetings in print. And the day that I show up to an AA meeting in physical form without my big book is the day she'll show up and she's not going to say hello. She's not
right.
going to
You
say,
say, where's your
she's
book?
going to say, where's your big book, Clara? And that's what she's going to, or, she'd probably
I
say,
was
Clara
not
Joyce,
following instructions here. But I like that because it gives an actual action physical component to going to a meeting.
yeah.
And for us alcoholics, these little things like that add up quickly. Oh, I can't, no, I need my big book. See, now there's accountability. There's a process going on. Your brain's thinking about what you're going to do. And yeah, what a great way to do that. That's a phenomenal idea.
Well, it also can be, helping you learn about judging other people because the other
Yeah.
people that don't bring their big book, here Clara is, bringing her big book, and I'm like, oh, ha ha ha. There's been a time that she's adjusted me on that behavior. you know um
Because
it's
I don't
like,
bring mine.
aren't I supposed to be proud about this? And she's like, well, there's a certain level of
Yeah.
balance that we
Right.
carry. We don't carry this book because we paid for it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what claiming our seed is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that fit in my 10th, 11th month, really,
Yeah.
because I wanted to tell my higher power, uh I was doing this. I was the one keeping me sober. I was listening to other shares, and God, you people in the program. I have a person in my home group that says that.
Yeah.
It's almost like every time he says who he is, at the end of his share, he's going to say, I'm sober today because of God, you people in this program.
Yeah. It's
Um,
only by the grace of God that we are here. And to think that we have really done anything is crazy. I
yeah,
mean, sure, we put a lot of effort into this, but not the amount of effort that my higher power has put into me individually.
mm,
He's done a lot more work, and I'm only sober by the grace of God, man. It ain't me. I know that. I mean, I was a little boy that cried wolf on drinking. I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna quit. Yeah, just
oh,
whew.
I would even use alcoholism, the disease, when I was in my cups. I, I I would even use that as, I've got to get to the liquor store because if I don't, I'm going to get sick. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
it was an
yeah,
excuse as well. And
absolutely
my
it was.
sponsors, like, excuses are the nails that build a house of failure. And, she was, she
Great.
was, yeah. I mean, so when you say she was nice, I don't know. I mean, there were times I was really like, F you, and
She
that's
wasn't.
bullshit when I
How
got off the
about this?
phone.
She's not nice. She's good.
Yeah. I mean,
Because I'm not
it's
nice
because
at
she's got
all.
28 years of recovery,
Yeah,
and she's had to live her life, and I mean, my goodness, her story is beautiful. And
yeah.
um
She's one of those people that says, "Oh, you could do that sober." I know because I did it.
yeah.
She's
Well,
one
and
of
she's
those.
told
What a
me,
great example.
go and tell your story without wanting pity. Um
Yeah. Yep.
and with my disabilities, I my wonderful character defects will glare through. If I'm new, I will pull
Mhm.
back. Like, I'm comfortable with you.
Sure.
um I've known you for a time. uh but boy, I'll tell you, that mask, my actor can happen just
Oh
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I got to be careful, and because I'm not walking in gratitude then.
Yeah.
um I
We
think
don't.
that's how
We
I
don't.
keep my gratitude level balance
We
in
don't. We
check.
don't fake being depressed. We fake being happy.
Yeah, well, happiness is a choice in your mind. I believe
Right.
that.
Ding ding. It is.
Our attitude comes along with it, though. So if I
Yeah.
wake up in a crappy way, it's hard to be happy.
Sure.
uh, it's usually when I wake up. I think that's what I've discovered.
Yeah.
Going through the intense, uh I did a fourth step just on the institution of marriage.
Sure.
And my relationship, what I bring to the table, what is my responsibility.
Sure.
It has stopped being about us in a marriage. It started being about me as an individual in a marriage.
Yeah.
And the difference of the perspective, um and I don't even know. I don't. I know. I'm sober, and so I've had successful sponsees.
Yeah.
I only have one sponsee that's been with me over a year.
Yeah.
And I just keep trying. I don't know what's going to help another person.
Yeah.
Um, but my sponsor tells me that that's what I have to do. It's
Yeah.
the only thing that she really required would be that I carry the message and not the mess.
That's right. Yeah.
And it was hard to hear that the first couple times, because I was
Sure
like,
it
what
is.
do you mean? I am carrying the message, and I get this,
The
what
messy
do you
message.
mean? You know, excuse you, and then I have to remember to right size myself.
That's right.
This
Don't you know
woman
who I
before me,
am?
yeah. And she's not gonna punish me,
Yeah.
but
And she ain't gonna buy it though either.
and I think that's where it's at right there.
Yeah.
That's the truth. And then, she'll remind me, um, to thine own self be true, Clara Joyce.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's all she has to say. Because then it's pen and paper.
Yeah.
Pen and paper has saved a lot of my tongue.
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah.
And I've got like journals. I don't know why I save them now. And I actually save them in an office that he could come and search and read them if he wanted, right?
But he
That's
doesn't need,
changed.
but he doesn't need to now.
Right. He doesn't,
He
you
doesn't
know,
need to now. He doesn't feel that need because you've become a working part of the relationship.
yeah.
It's it one of the best parts about sponsoring for me anyway is when I see a man or a woman and their wife or husband and they start getting along really well because they both have their own program and it's just really beautiful to see because I don't want people to break up. I'd rather you stayed with your spouse and and grew together and found God together,
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if a lot of people really know, but when I was done with the steps and reading between 1 and 164, a lot of the stories in the back of the book I learned through in the rooms or reading them on my own.
Sure.
And then if I had questions or being by the time I was a year sober, I was using highlighters. I had to go buy new ones because I think, you know, um, I, I think I do it too. I give my old highlighters to my sponsees.
Part of passing it
Uh,
on with that in
yeah.
that case. Yeah.
And I always seem to do that.
Yeah.
She has shown me so much as a woman before me and so as the other women and the men. I didn't know men had the feelings that I know that men have today,
Yeah.
3 years ago. And I think for me a big difference is the first two times I came into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, I did not want to be anywhere near that type of uh whatever it was. I mean, I had my
Yeah.
judgments, I guess. Um, those people have to go there because they're fucked up in the head. Excuse my f bomb, but that's the only way to really
No
put it.
fucking problem.
You know. Um, and this time it was like, if these people can help me. I mean,
Huh?
I always was like, I knew how to help everybody else, but when you get to the point to where you don't even know how to help yourself anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, and people say, "Oh, I was a people pleaser," and I don't know if I was a people pleaser, but I sure did do a lot of things to be able to have available what I needed or
Yeah. That
wanted.
that sounds more like manipulation than people pleasing to me.
Yeah, um, I could say, "Oh, I did this, I did that. Oh, I donated $500 to the Cancer Association or whatever we did," but those that's not the how can I say it? That's not the trudge grudge,
That's right.
you know. You got to have the grit of
Yeah.
it to be
Well,
able to have
you
traction.
you would have gotten more out of you know, people don't really want money. They want time. They
Yeah.
want space. And yeah, and it just felt bad. It felt wrong to you because you knew it wasn't the right way. That intuition. I'm 54 years old. If I tell a lie, my tummy hurts. You know, it's part of it's just part of the process of listening to that inner child, man. My inner child knows more about this life than my brain does for sure.
Yeah,
At
I
least the
went from
right way to
telling the
do it.
lie to get a drink to
Yeah,
telling a lie to be away from a drink.
yeah,
Uh, but the 12 and 12 for me, when we went from the steps to the 12 and 12,
uh-huh,
and my sponsor read the 12 and 12 with me, the
yeah,
traditions of the 12 and 12, because of
oh
course
yeah,
we read the steps and how to do them and went
uh-huh,
through this, and she'd give me homework. But in the very back of the 12 and 12, it talks about how marriage can be better
yeah,
with the steps of Alcoholic Anonymous and
Oh yeah.
with the traditions. Um, like now, today, in my life today, I mean, I didn't know how to buy a gift. My 28th anniversary, my 28th year wedding anniversary. So
Yeah.
my sponsor helped me, and it
Yeah.
was a God shot, everything. I was like, whoa. And I don't know, those things, those little tiny things are the ones that'll explode and make me want to have a drink. But the
Yeah.
little tiny things are also that piece of the foundation that if you don't build that foundation, your house is going to cave.
That's right.
Um, and
Gotta
he
have
was
a,
really firm on that,
yeah.
you know.
Well, the little things either kill or build, and it's kind of your choice. But you gotta watch the little things. That's like I don't try and determine the size of a problem anymore. A problem's just a problem, but it doesn't matter big or small. I might have priorities on how I handle those problems, but now I have the tools to handle those priorities. And what a great gift for us, to be able to turn around from being very naive about life to be, I tell people as a kid, I was the don't be like Dion. Okay. Now, I'm sober and recovered. Now be like Dion, but don't be like Dion was here. But Dion still gets to use his past to teach other people what not to do. But I can come from a place of not blame or shame, but that it's my experience and it's not the right way to go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how much shame I drank over. I would
Oh
drink
yeah.
at things.
Boy, I never
Um,
drank four things. It was always at, you bet.
yeah, I mean, yeah, um,
Because then I felt justified.
yeah, I had a reason. I had a
Mhm.
reason to be that messed up, or had a reason to get the break from my brain, or whatever it
Yeah.
might have been. But today, I'll go a walk in
Yeah.
nature, or I'll go, there was a time in my recovery where I was in a wheelchair, um,
Yeah.
and then I went from that wheelchair, uh, you know, you know, if I wouldn't have had Alcoholics Anonymous, I wouldn't have had the meditation technique
Yeah.
that I needed to get through these
Uh-huh.
trials of, you know, the disease of alcoholism took, it took more than just my life. I mean,
There are some things worse than death, and an
yeah, I mean, I
alcoholic life is one of them. It's arduous. A lot of us don't make it. A lot of us don't even make it to the rooms of AA. They kill themselves before that happens. Billy Joel wrote a whole song about it called "Only the Good Die Young," right? Only the good die young, and an alcoholic death is not pretty in any
well,
form.
and I didn't want to kill myself when I was
No,
drinking.
no.
I wanted to kill
Uh-uh.
myself after I got sober.
Yeah.
And I
Mm.
don't know if people
Oh
uh,
yeah.
understand that that can happen. I mean, sometimes being that attraction, because I don't know out in the outside world who I'm going to be around or who's watching or whatever, but
Yeah.
I do know that in the rooms I can be who I am. And um, I don't have to be happy all the time. Some people think,
No.
"Oh, CJ, you're happy all the time." And I'm like, "Well, you didn't see me at last night when I
The
was
fuck I
punching my
am.
leg because it wouldn't work, right?" I mean, you didn't see me that way.
Yeah. You
Who
weren't
can I
around the other day when I punched my
you
chair here,
can
my work chair, and broke one of the wheels, right? I try and refrain from that on camera. Sure, I do, but yeah, we still. It says in the big book, it doesn't say if these crop up. It says when these
win?
crop up, which means it's going to happen. your decision on how bad you're going to beat up on yourself about it. That's up to you.
That was a big one. That was
Yeah.
big to recognize that I was beating up on me, and that these people around me that I thought were talking about me and this
Yeah.
and that about me and whatever about me, and really I am not that important.
Yeah.
And in the outside world, all I did was quit drinking. I, you
Exactly.
know, I come into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and tonight I'll go to my home group and take my chip, because I want
Yay.
that woman that's there
Yeah.
to see that
You were worth her time.
I was worth getting 3 years
Fuck yeah.
for myself.
Oh yeah.
And then, a man that for 9 months barely spoke 2 words to me, because he was out of ideas, and
Yeah.
he didn't want a dead wife, but he had taken all the precautions. If you look at an Al-Anon pamphlet and you're new, don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, wait until you're a few years into it,
Yeah, because
because
you're gonna get your feelings hurt if you were as
oh,
sensitive as I
oh
was.
Lord.
Because you think we're mean, go to Al-Anon.
Yeah, my sponsor, she says, well, that book, when I picked it up one day and I started reading it, and I thought, rude.
Yeah. How rude. Yeah, it is. And
But I had it in my
what
home. I mean,
yeah,
and this is a man that, he was listening. He was listening to the rooms of his rooms,
yeah,
of an Al-Anoner. And I guess, I was spiritually bankrupt. And I
yeah,
thought that I wasn't, because I had prayer, and I had all those foxhole, and I didn't understand
yeah.
waking up and, taking a shot just to make it through the day. I mean, I'm so
Just
grateful I don't
to
have to do that.
yeah,
And
just
this
to
man,
stop shaking.
this man comes to me uh, before my prayers last night, and he gives me a beautiful coin,
Yeah.
and it has 3 years on it.
Yeah.
And I
Wow, look at
mean,
that. That's beautiful.
and it's a phoenix coin, and I have a
I can
huge
see that.
phoenix.
I'm a big I mean, I went to a place called the Phoenix Concept that saved my life. I've got a shirt that has the Phoenix on it. That is beautiful. And wow, what a neat thing. You got it, and it was your husband, and that means he believes you. He believes in what you're doing. When you say, I'm gonna stay sober today, he fucking believes you. And he can leave the house and not
Yeah,
worry. That
yeah.
is the best gift you could have ever given that man. Great job.
I hear that. I still get into, why didn't I see it before?
Yeah.
I don't like to sit uh, with this, but this was my first year, and he didn't believe me, but I
Okay.
don't know if you can see that.
Oh yeah. You can see it. I can see it, but they're not going to be able to see it. It is a picture of Clara Joyce before and after, and it is not pretty. It is not. You're a beautiful woman, but that picture ain't not pretty.
Well, I'll tell you something. That woman brought me here,
That's right.
so I'm grateful for her.
So God bless her too. You bet.
But
We have a mental illness. We are not bad people. Actually, in our heart of hearts, we're the most giving people in the world. But there's just certain things we don't understand in this life.
yeah,
And I absolutely believe that we are chosen by God to do this work because He picked the hardest. This is a hard road, man. And to say, you get to take care of my children. I mean, come on, it's a big
well,
thing.
and some of us, we can't. I mean, I can't stand at the top of the mountain and hope everyone that comes along in my path. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, if I'm saying the 11th step prayer for someone,
Hmm.
um, It's not just I don't because maybe I don't like them. That's
No,
not why
that's
I
not
say
why
that
anymore.
prayer.
Yeah,
I say that prayer for them, or the freedom from bondage prayer, which is huge, because I've been wherever they are. I
yeah,
just I just don't know how to help or guide, and my my higher power has been with me the whole time, and stepping
absolutely.
into the sunlight of the spirit is what I was told. Um and I'm grateful, but I do know if I am not there
Yeah.
very quickly. And I there are times I want to go down that road. I want to look at my husband and throw a shoe at him like Lois did, right? um
That's
but I don't,
right.
because those behaviors got me to where I am today.
That's right.
Not that Alcoholics Anonymous is bad. In fact, I have better friendships today. I have
Hmm.
genuine love to offer.
There you go. It's genuine love. It's genuine. Absolutely. You know what? Dr. Jordan Peterson, I'm a big fan of his. He says that if your spouse doesn't irritate the fuck out of you, you're with the wrong person.
Well, and I've learned about love languages. When I
Yeah.
first seen your big book study,
Uh-huh.
um, you were doing the steps in the big book.
Yeah.
When I very first met you, anyway, um, you had said something about love languages, and then I listened to another speaker tape, and they said something. So I got this book, uh,
Yeah.
and from the library, and I was like, wow, okay,
Pretty neat, huh?
you know,
Yeah.
if I
Yeah.
if I want this, then maybe I should express this. And it's hard.
It
I
is
mean,
hard.
my mental disorders are what they are, right? They're
Yeah.
exactly that. I don't have to go into detail because I don't have to be better or say I have these diagnoses, because it doesn't matter. What
Yeah.
matters is that I'm happy in today, and I don't need a drug or a drink to keep me happy.
Uh-huh.
I I've been through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and so that means that I can, you know, get through today.
Yeah.
Because really, when it all comes down to it, I have to live in today so I can get to the next.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's either tomorrow, I I struggle still, because the
Yeah.
disease of alcoholism is 100% in me. And
Sure.
I tell people in rooms, alcohol is only a symptom.
Yeah.
I go to therapy. I go to physical therapy. I do water yoga. So if you're too fat and you can't fucking do yoga on the floor, then there is no excuse, because there's
Right.
water
There's
yoga.
water yoga. That's right. My
And
mom does that.
yeah, I don't know. I'm in better health than I've ever been in my life, and
That's
I can
great.
barely walk. So,
Yeah.
when you look at those things and you can say that honestly, I mean, once we start straightening out, I keep wanting to know what's that next frontier. I've been into emotional sobriety a lot lately, trying to listen
Yeah.
to how I get that calmness. I see you have, Dion, and I see other people in the program. This really exciting situation will happen, and here I am. I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? And like, you're sitting there going, okay, well, let's just, and I still, AAers still have what I want,
Uh,
you
for
know?
me too. It's a never-ending road. And and do you have anything that you'd like to read as we wrap up, or anything else that you would like to say? Usually, people tend to have a reading or something that they prefer to
I
go out on.
I do have a reading.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew it.
It is my favorite.
It
Let
is
me
your
see.
favorite.
It's on one. It's on three. Sometimes I have a trouble with the twos. It's either
Could you let me know
Because
what it
I'm a
is?
late starter. I feel like I'm a late starter because it took me a while to
Okay.
is
What page were
to
you saying it's on?
it's the story a late start.
A late start.
Uh I'm
We're
trying to
getting
find
there.
it.
Yeah, no worries. We're getting there. I must be in the
Um
backpack because here it is. It's like 5:30 something. It starts on
532 is where maybe it is.
5:32 is another chance in my book.
Okay, you got
So 5:35 is where a late start begins.
okay.
Oh, 49.
535. Oh, and as soon as I get to it, it'll be highlighted. Yeah.
All
Uh,
right.
so it's actually going to be on. Um, well, it is.
I guess I should have asked you this at the beginning before we started so we were prepared, but yeah, everything happens in God's world for a reason.
Well, okay. So it's. I don't know if this is. I know. Oh, here it is. Yep.
Okay.
542. I knew it had something to do with it too.
There you go.
542.
You're right.
It's in my big book. Yes.
All right.
Um, and I had it. I should have opened it. But anyway, it begins. Small miracles keep offering me new opportunities just when I need a change and just when I needed change and growth. New friends have shown me hidden truth in those sayings that I once found so shallow. The lessons of tolerance and acceptance have taught me to look beyond exterior appearances, to find the help and wisdom so often lurking beneath the surface. All my sobriety and growth, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, are dependent upon my willingness to listen, understand, and change. And that is the one paragraph
Yeah,
that I've read. Um, I think it fits. It fit my first year, it fit my second year, and it's going to fit this year too.
absolutely. Well,
Um,
there's a lot in that one paragraph. He talks about a lot and finding growth beyond the 12 steps. That is where it's at. Once we what do we call the 12 steps? A good start.
yeah, it's a good start for
It
sure.
is.
And it's a 1 day process, and I think that trusting the process is tough because when we look at process we look, oh my gosh, the word sounds like it's going to take forever.
No, just today.
I just want to be well, and that's
Yeah,
what I'll be in this day.
yeah. There you
Thank you
go.
so much, Dion, for asking me to
Absolutely,
share.
Claire. It's been great having you. Absolutely, and thanks for that reading. We're getting to the Jerry Springer portion of the show where I kind of take everything and wrap things up. There's always a consistency that I tend to hear in stories. And I have found that there's usually a person in our lives that has been trying to help us and trying to help us. It might be our significant other, it might be a sister or a brother or our mother or our dad or our uncle or auntie. But there's usually somebody in our life that we turn around and we see how much we are hurting them, and we find that our behavior is no longer acceptable. So before we go, I'd like to tell you that you can get sober for any reason that you want to. Recovery is done for yourself, but to get sober and stay sober, I'm still sober for my wife and my kids. But the added benefit is that I do recovery for me. I do that part for me. So you want to add on to that? Go ahead and then we'll do the wrap up.
All right, well, I just wanted to say the group PADAP that I talked about very beginning,
Yeah.
it is the Palmer drug abuse program.
That's what okay. I knew it sounded familiar.
Yeah.
It's not around
I
anymore. It
I
was one
didn't
of
want
those,
people to be lost about that. So
yeah,
that's
there were, and it's happening again, but there were a lot of fads, where people take the 12 steps and try and make money off of them. It will not work for everybody. Listen, just don't even try it. It won't work. So,
yeah. AA's where it's at. It didn't work for
right.
me, or I would have been sober at 12.
That's right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate it. I love you. You know I do. Peace out and have a day.